Will Salt Lake City get a baseball team? Who knows? But this article that just came out a few days ago by CBS Sports outlines the 8 cities that are at the top of the list that are most likely to receive a new Major League Baseball team. Let's dive into it. Hey, this is Scott Willie. We like talking about all things Salt Lake City on this channel, to include new potential sports franchises and how it could affect the real estate market here in Utah. This video will be very interesting to not only people thinking about relocating to Utah and what the potential housing market might do, but the people that currently live here and what the expansion of the city might look like with a new sports team. All right, let's dive into the article. So the headline here is Major League Baseball expansion, breaking down 8 possible locations for new baseball teams from population to local clubs. For anyone relatively familiar with Salt Lake City, you know that we have the Salt Lake City Bees. They are a AAA minor league baseball team, but currently the only professional sports team we have here that everyone's heard of is the Utah Jazz. Of course, we have other major athletics, Real Soccer, University of Utah Athletics, BYU Athletics, and so forth. But this is a really interesting article to see how close are we to getting a Major League Baseball team and where does Salt Lake City rank among these 8 teams. Major League Baseball will expand from 30 to 32 teams in the coming years. Now, how long will that take? I don't think anyone really knows, but it's always fun to speculate. Maybe if this is 10 years from now, it'll be a fun lead up to see what Salt Lake City might look like in a decade from now. Those destinations in alphabetical order are Charlotte, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Montreal, Canada, which is interesting. You have a non-US city here on the list. Nashville, Tennessee, Portland, Oregon. Again, I grew up in Portland, so it's interesting to see them on the list as well. Sacramento, California, Salt Lake City, and San Antonio. 5 of these cities, Charlotte, Las Vegas, Nashville, Sacramento, and here in Salt Lake City, are presently home to affiliated AAA minor league franchises. In addition to the considerations that are going to be laid out in this article, it's of course necessary that the ownership group in question will be willing to hand over an expansion fee that will surely be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, considerably higher here in parentheses. As well, it's probably a prerequisite that the city and state of relevance will be willing to fork over tax dollars and tax abatements towards the construction of a new ballpark. Here's why I think Salt Lake City immediately has a leg up of some of these other metro areas. Salt Lake City and Utah in general is really known to gravitate towards business owners. Over the pandemic, there was lots of businesses that moved here from other states like California because of the tax incentives and because it's just a very business-friendly state. In fact, in the 2023 U.S. News and World Report, Utah was ranked as the #1 overall state and was in the top 5 for some of those areas like fiscal stability and economy. So I think we're already off to a good start. The first consideration is the metro area population. A sizable population base makes it more likely that a team can thrive in terms of attendance and the number of cable/streaming subscriptions they can sell. That said, the mega markets are of course already home to franchises, and there's little appetite for, say, a 3rd team in the New York City area. I think that's why you notice that there isn't a major metro market in that list of top 8 that already has a baseball team. The example they give here is New York. Would it make sense for Major League Baseball to add another team to a major market that already exists? Probably not. So here's the actual list. Number 1 is Montreal with a population of 4.38 million. Charlotte is number 2 at 2.76 million. So very interesting there. Just from number 1 to number 2, there's a huge drop off. I mean, you're talking 1.5 million people just between the number 1 ranked city and the number 2 ranked city. And from there, the trend continues. You have San Antonio at 2.66 million, Portland at 2.5 million, Sacramento 2.4, Las Vegas 2.3, Nashville 2 million, and then very sadly, Salt Lake City is last on this list at 1.27 million. So a couple interesting things to note here. The first is Salt Lake City is significantly lower population than any of the other cities mentioned in this article. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? According to this article, that might be a bad thing just because they need a city that already has a large population if they're going to make the profit that they would want to make with an expansion team. The article goes on to say, for some context, Milwaukee, so the Milwaukee Brewers, is the current smallest Major League Baseball market with an estimated metro population of 1.56 million. So not only is Salt Lake City the lowest on the list, it would be the lowest and smallest population of any Major League Baseball team that currently exists. As for San Antonio, it's fair to give that the metro area bonus because of the proximity of the Austin metro area. So this is interesting. Their respective city centers are just 80 miles away from each other, and the sprawl of each, of course, comes even closer. Austin has a metro population of 2.42 million. So if you were to combine Austin and San Antonio, you're talking well over 5 million people between those two markets. And because they're so close to each other, the people that are making these decisions might look at that and say, well, we have two major metro areas that are so close, they would probably root for the same baseball team. Here's the second factor they're looking at, the media market rank. Number one on the list is Sacramento, currently ranked 20th of all metro markets in the US. Number two on the list is Charlotte, just behind them, ranked 21st. And then just behind that at number three is Portland, ranked number 23rd. I don't know if this is true or not, but I've always heard that Portland was the largest market that only has one professional sports team. That's the Portland Trail Blazers. I have no idea if that's true, just something I've heard. Number four is Nashville, ranked 26th. Salt Lake City here kind of falls out in the middle, ranked 27th. San Antonio is 31st, and Las Vegas is 40th. So even though Salt Lake might be number 5 on this list, you'll notice that the spread here between the 20th ranked in Sacramento and the 40th ranked of Las Vegas is a relatively short gap, so maybe that doesn't hurt the Salt Lake market in terms of being the top choice here. Factor number 3, per capita gross domestic product. To give yourself the best chance of selling tickets in broadcast packages, you want a potential customer base that has plenty of discretionary income. Per capita GDP is a broad measure of average economic activity per person. Salt Lake City, number 7 at just under 50,000, and Montreal, number 8 at 48,000. So again, you see Salt Lake City here ranking towards the bottom for GDP. How much of a factor will that play? Let's continue looking at these other considerations, and then let's wrap it up with an overview at the end. So the next consideration is the number of major sports franchises. So when they say major sports franchises here, they're referring to the top 4, at least in US sports. So we're talking the NFL, NBA, the NHL, and of course, Major League Baseball. So this is in instead of a ranked order, this is just an alphabetical. Charlotte has 2. You've got the NBA's Hornets and the NFL's Panthers. Las Vegas is also has 2, the Raiders and the Golden Knights hockey team. Montreal just has the 1 NHL team. Nashville currently has 2, the NFL Tennessee Titans as well as the NHL's Predators. Portland only has 1, like I mentioned, just the NBA's Trailblazers. Sacramento has 1, the NBA's Kings. Salt Lake City has 1, the Jazz. And San Antonio has 1, the Spurs. So first of all, it's interesting that a lot of these teams already have an NBA franchise. I don't know if that's just a coincidence. But what's important to know is that in the article, it describes, as for the 3 cities with more than 1 Big 4 franchise already in place, you could see that as proof of viability or an already crowded market. So in our case in Salt Lake, we just have the 1 major sports team in the Utah Jazz that could attract a Major League Baseball team with the understanding that we're not a crowded market. Here's the last consideration. What is the closest Major League Baseball city that already exists? So for Salt Lake, this is where we are now by far at the top. Maybe it's because we're in the Mountain West and it takes a long time to get to the next major market. But the next closest Major League Baseball to Salt Lake City is Denver, which is over 500 miles away. So here's what the article has to say about this. Major League Baseball probably prefers a bit of geographic cushion between any new franchise and any existing one. Along similar lines, you're probably looking at one expansion from the east and one from the west. In other words, it seems unlikely that the two expansion teams would be in, say, Charlotte and Nashville because North Carolina and Tennessee are right next to each other. It's more likely that they're going to choose one major metro area from the west and one from the east. So, does that give Salt Lake City an advantage? I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Put in the comments below what you think the likelihood is of Salt Lake City getting a baseball team. But there you have it. Those are the major considerations that they're looking at to choose an expansion team. You'll notice Salt Lake City ranked really high in some of those categories and really low, if not dead last, in some of those other categories. So I'd love to hear from you. What would you think this is going to do to the real estate market here in Salt Lake City? And what do you think the chances are that Salt Lake is the city that they choose for one of these two franchise teams? Again, my name is Scott Willie. This is the Salt Lake City Living channel. We like to bring you these sorts of articles to let you know what is going on here in the future of Salt Lake and how it could impact real estate. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you have questions about relocating to Salt Lake City or the market here, our contact information is in the description below. Look forward to talking to you soon.